Hello everyone and welcome to a new video on my knitting channel, Nikitinaknits. My name is Evgenia and this is the video about my winter knitting plans. For all of the chosen projects, I have yarn already in my stash and I'm going to share with you each one of them. So before I begin, I would love to point out how my plans usually work and why they're so ambitious and why do I plan so many of them is because I'm not a summer garment knitter. So usually autumn knitting plans is from September up to January or something, and winter knitting plans are usually from January all the way up to September again. That's why I put a lot of projects in my plans. My first very much loved sweater is Pachira Sweater by Twin Knits. I'm so much in love with this design that I'm losing my words when I start to speak about it. When they just released this pattern, I've been looking at it for so long and I always thought to myself that it's too complicated, that I'm not ready yet. I just need to gain a little bit more experience. And it's been like this up to the moment when I saw them updating their pattern page with the blue version. It's like bluish lavender, very deep lavender color. When I saw this color, I don't know what happened to me, but I was like, I need to find the yarn with this color and I'm going to start knitting it. So about the pattern is a pattern that is all over cabled sweater, knit on 4.5mm needles, and the suggested yarn is lace plus DK, and in the end they say it's still a DK weight, but I think a worsted weight would also work and a heavy DK would also work. So the gauge is 20 stitches per 10 centimeters and 24 rows, and the recommended yarn is Mayflower London Merino and Mayflower Kid Silk paired together. In my case, I chose a different yarn, actually quite special for me. This is a Scheepjes Metropolis and Gepard Cashmere Lace. So I'm going to hold 2 strands of Gepard Cashmere Lace and Scheepjes Metropolis. Scheepjes Metropolis is a 75% extra fine merino wool and 25% nylon, is extremely soft. I already spoke about this yarn in my previous podcasts and I'm so much in love that finally I decided to knit a whole sweater in it. And the Gepard Cashmere Lace is the first time that I'm trying it. It was on a little discount in my yarn shop, so I decided to give it a try. But for the price, it has quite a lot of meterage. It has 350 meters per 25 grams, so it's a very thin lace weight. And I'm pairing it double. It's going to be quite expensive sweater in the end of the day, but I was so much in love with the color and I'm expecting a very squishy, nice, soft fabric towards my skin. And also the pattern is not so, simple. It's a lot of cables, there are different sizes, so I'm just expecting a lot of speciality from this sweater. And I decided to invest in it. I already have the pattern, I just need to, be brave and cast it on because I've never knit all over cabled sweater before. Regarding the construction, you cast on with the Judy's Magic cast on. Half of the stitches go for the back piece and half of them for the front piece. So you knit the back panel with the short rows until the armholes, I believe. I don't remember already. And then you knit the left and the front shoulder. You then connect in the round under the arms, knitting the body all the way down. And then you cast on for the sleeves from the top to down. And I really love that they're using short rows for the sleeve cap. I really appreciate this in the patterns, and I'm getting quite sad when I see no short rows on the sleeve caps because they're so necessary for me, for the great feet, and I'm really happy when the designers do that. So this design has it and I'm so excited to cast on. So the next sweater is Calista Sweater by MorecaKnit. I'm really missing a very warm garment in my wardrobe. I have a few that are quite special, made of cashmere, mohair, blouses and t-shirts, but I still don't have a very warm, high neck, thick sweater that I can just wear in the winter and not get cold, which is quite surprising. So when she released this sweater, I immediately looked into the construction house made, as I usually do. And I see a lot of shaping, and I believe, I'm not sure yet, but I think there's also shaping on the sleeves, which I always look for in the raglan constructions. So this whole sweater is a raglan construction. You start from the top down. So you cast on, you make a very high neck, then you make short rows for the neck depth. then you separate for the sleeves and for the body. The yarn weight is Aran Plus lace and is knit on 5.5mm needles with a gauge of 17 stitches and 25 rows per 10 centimeters. So I'm now going to do the gradient that she has in her sweater. If you look, it has a very beautiful gradient that reminds me of snow, which is very suitable for winter again. And I think I will be repeating this gradient idea, but since I already have yarn in my stash and I don't want to buy more, I decided to, postpone this idea for the next year and use whatever I have. And one of the options that I have is a cashmere that I actually showed in my autumn knitting plans for another projects, but I changed my mind. It's quite special yarn for me. Is Loro Piana Cashmere Coarsehair. It's a fingering weight yarn and it blooms after the wash, so I think I will use 3 or 4 strands. This is 100% cashmere, and some sources say that Loro Piana Coarsehair, this specific yarn, is a baby cashmere, which I don't know exactly if it's true, but I want to believe so if that's true. So this is a very variegated yarn, which is super soft. In cone it looks quite dry, but right after the blocking, when you wash out the spinning oil, it's going to bloom out so beautifully. And I'm just dreaming of this cashmere hugging me all over from the neck down to very long arms, and it gives me very cozy winter vibes. Yeah, I wanted to use this yarn for one of my projects from my autumn knitting plans. If you want to take a look again at that video, so maybe you find some cool new patterns for yourself. I changed my mind, so it's fine. The reason also why I changed my mind, because I have so much of this yarn. I think I have 450 grams or half a kilogram, and for this cashmere is a lot of weight, so I think I can use all of it for this sweater. So what else I like about this sweater is the neckline. It's quite wide and deep, which I also appreciate. It looks quite feminine and quite cozy for me as well. I really don't like when it's a turtleneck or long high neck and the neckline is quite narrow. I don't like that. So Calista Sweater is quite cool. Alright, the next project is a vest. I've never knitted myself a vest, and I've been a little bit crazy choosing a all the way color work vest with sticking. Sticking is a moment when you have to cut through the fabric, so you knit all around all the time. You add additional stitches in the middle of the fabric, and then you fix those stitches and you cut through the fabric. I've never tried that, and this designer includes video tutorials of all of the complicated moments, as she mentions, so I'm looking forward to some guidance. So this is a blossom vest by Nis Pourmont, or So Min Kim, is one of my favorite Korean designers, and I'm a big fan of Korean designers lately. And I finally decided to knit one for myself. I decided to go with the recommended yarn for the vest. I wanted exactly the sample that I saw on the designer in the same exact color, and I've been trying to find similar colors in Jamieson's of Shetland and other Shetland wools as well, but it's quite hard to find this color. It's even hard to photograph. I'm going to attach a picture where I try to capture the color in the best way possible, but it's so complex and interesting that it's very very special for me. So this is a warm Tiffany color, I would describe it, and this is a very melted water, iceberg water, something like that. So when I decided to knit with this yarn, I started to read about description, what is the brand, and I usually care about the production, how the animals and people are treated, where they take the sources, and if it's muslin free, all of these things. And I really loved this brand and their approach to natural materials, how they treat the sheeps, how they treat the people, and the whole energy of the brand. And I wanted to advertise them, so I reach out to them and I say, hey, I really love your brand, I really love the way you work, and I would love to speak about you in my podcast. And they offered me to gift the yarn for my blossom vest, which I really much appreciated. And I'm really happy to share with you about this yarn. To be honest, I receive quite a lot of offers, to give the yarn and speak about it. But usually I say no, because I want to knit with something that I truly want to knit. But to this brand, I reach out myself. And I'm honestly telling you how much I'm in love with this. When I'm touching it, I know this history, not the history, the location, which fleeces were used for this yarn, and the people that I already had a contact with, and it just gives a whole depth of experience. So this is a fingering weight. You can get hanks of 100 grams each or 50 grams each. which is quite comfortable as well. So my hinks are 100 grams each and it has 400 meters. The recommended needle size is 2.53 millimeters. The content of the yarn is 50% fleece from Ouessant. Ouessant is the most western island in France, and 25% from the sheep that is raised in Brittany, which is also in France, and 25% Mérinos d'Arles. I don't know, I don't speak French, so Mérinos d'Arles. I imagine it's also a breed of sheep or a type of fleece. All of the fleeces that are mixed in this yarn are from French, that are locally produced, and it feels, again, as I said, quite rustic and soft at the same time. So I am very excited, and I'm also excited to see how the yarn blooms after the wash. About the yarn owners, these are two women, which is Stephanie and Clotilde. They're from France, and they're really, really sweet and nice. They send me the yarn with a label that I can attach to my vest when it's done. Also a very warm letter I'm going to put on the screen, and little stickers, and yeah, it just gives a lot of depth to the whole experience of knitting. I will be looking forward to find more of these brands or farms that are not so popular and not hyped up yet, and just speak about them here so more people can know about such beautiful yarn brands. And getting back to the vest is knit on 3.5 millimeter needles bottom up. So you start from the ribbing and you add stick stitches in the middle. Stick stitches are then the stitches where you're going to cut the fabric through. So then you knit from the bottom up to the armholes. You separate for the front and for the back. You finish the garment, you sew it up, and then you stick through the fabric here. What's also interesting about this pattern is that the armholes are knit in the ribbing, and the bottom is the ribbing, but the bottom band is knit in double knitting, which looks quite neat and professional. So I'm excited. The next item on my list is the cardigan. Initially I wanted to knit April Cardigan by Petite Knit, and I bought the yarn for this. It's Sandnes Garn Sunday with Pasquali Mohair Bliss. Mohair Bliss is extremely soft mohair. This is 26 microns, and for instance the cashmere is between 23 and 26 microns as well. So you could say this mohair is as soft as cashmere. I think it's a bit more rustic than cashmere, but still it's extremely soft. It is softer than Easter mohair, and it also has more meterage, so 300 grams per 25 grams. And Sunday by Sandnes Garn is 100% merino wool that is a fingering weight. This is a color of Chinese porcelain. These colors match perfectly, and I did my best to make sure they will match in the internet, and in reality it looks so beautiful. I'm so happy with this pair. And Pasquali Mohair Bliss has a lot of different colors that I'm in love with, so I'm quite excited for this fabric. The thing with the pattern is that I wanted to knit this April cardigan, but then the problem with the shoulder always bothered me. So the April cardigan is a contiguous shoulder construction where you start with the back and the shoulders, and then you add stitches. You add in every single row stitches for the shoulder and for the back, and that creates a little bunching in the shoulders. So you have less fabric for the shoulder and more fabric for the front and for the back, and that always bothered me a little bit. The rest of the April cardigan I love so much. It's knit top down seamlessly. It's very neat, it's beautiful, it's classic. But then I found Olena Sitalkina, which is my new favorite designer, and she has a Surzhik Pullover. This pullover could be transformed into April cardigan. So her pattern is more special because first it's way more shaped. It has a lot of short rows, it has neck depth, shoulder shaping, and a lot of different details that April cardigan doesn't have, which already attracts me. Also, she has a bust shaping, which is always the best for me because my back is quite straight, so I don't have a big bust, but I have more space in the front, and a lot of times the fabric is pulled from the arm to the front, which it doesn't, feel nice, especially when you buy expensive yarn and you put so much effort in the knit. The V-neck in her pattern is quite deep. And I've read in comments on her Instagram that it could be easily transferred into the cardigan. So what I'm thinking to do is to just do Surzhik Pullover without connecting in the round. She's very smart, very cool woman that creates incredibly clean, perfectly fitted designs, and I'm I'm a bit nervous because, of course, when you look at the ready object, you already know what to expect. But when you transform something yourself, you don't know exactly how it's going to look like, and it could be a surprise. That's why I'm a bit worried, but I think I will be regretting if I'm not trying that. The Surzhik Pullover has 26 stitches gauge, and I think I will be perfectly achieving that because Sandnes Garn has a 28 stitch gauge, and when I'm adding very thin mohair to that, I think it's going to be quite easy for me to achieve gauge. And the last sweater in my dreams and in my plans is the sweater that is still in testing and has no name yet. This is a Korean designer, and right now the testing and the description of it is in Korean on her Instagram, but I think she is going to have the English version. I just want to believe so. She already has a cardigan that I really love in English available, so I'm just like really hoping and dreaming that it's going to be also in English. But I already know that if it's not going to be in English, I will be using Google Translate and doing this sweater. This sweater is knit on 5mm needles, and it has 25 stitches and 30 rows per 10 centimeters. And I have a perfect yarn for this. Is a Nakyang yarn. I'm wool 4. I spoke about this yarn in my previous podcast. So this is the yarn that was gifted to me. I reached out also to this brand because I was so much desperate for finding Korean yarns, and I finally did. This yarn is based in Europe as well. Originally it's from Korea, but they finally have a basement in Germany, and I'm so much in love with. They gifted me the yarn, and I think I will be buying also more yarn from them later. This is very, very soft to the skin merino wool of a worsted weight. So this is a 100-gram ball, and it contains of 175 meters, which I think is perfect for this gauge. So this sweater is a very complex looking sweater, but it's so feminine and beautiful. Like all of these cables, they're blending into each other. The cables are facing each other on the sides, and the romps with some structure inside are also kind of, fitted next to each other perfectly. It just gives me so much pleasure to only look at that. When she just posted the first picture, I was like, no matter how much I'm going to wait for this, I am going to knit this. It does not matter. It is knit top down, no matter if it's flat or in the round. So if it's flat, then you have to seam the raglans over here. If it's seamless, then of course you do the increases. But I don't have much information about the construction. I'll just be patiently waiting. I have the yarn, and the moment the pattern is out in English, I'm going to cast on. So I'm done with all of the big garments. I'm so excited, and I think I will have enough time, up to September to finish my winter knitting plans. I need a neck warmer because I don't like scarves, and my neck is getting cold, and I don't have one. So I recently bought 100% baby yak in the worsted weight. The brand is Myak or Myak. Extremely soft. So basically yak is called a second cashmere or cashmere brother, and this is a baby yak. So the baby yak is a little baby up to 6 months, and they're brushing the animal with the brush to get this little fluff to then spun into the yarn. And when it comes to yak, especially because it's only sourced from Mongolia usually, I really care about the production, I really care that they don't damage and harm the animal during the shearing or the brushing or whatever they're doing. It's just very important to me. Usually I stay away from yak, but this brand really impressed me, and I finally bought some for myself. So I was thinking to do a terrazzo neck by Petite Knit for this yarn, and I still think to do so, but I'm still hesitant. So if you know any pattern that has a zipper, let me know, because to always pull the neckline through my hair is not so comfortable with the makeup, with the lip gloss if I have one, just in general I don't find it so functional. I just think I will have to do it myself in the end of the day, add the zipper in terrazzo neck. So terrazzo neck is a pattern by Petite Knit. She's using worsted plus lace, which is iron weight yarn. In her pattern she's using Filcolana Peruvian plus mohair. In my case, I'm going to use Myak without anything. I'm just hoping for it to bloom a lot. If it's going to be too thin, what I'm going to do is buy their lace version as well. They have exactly the same baby yak in a lace, and this is the color Desert. So if I'm going to miss the gauge, I will just buy a lace thread, which is going to be even better because it's going to be warmer. I don't want to pair it with mohair because I don't want to feel mohair on my neck when I bought very expensive yak. So this is an option. So the whole garment is knit on 4.5mm needles, and I really like the whole design. It's very minimalistic, it's very cozy, very simple. A very nice detail about this is that the back is longer than the front, and my little suggestion is to use yarn that doesn't hold the ribbons so tight. You know, the yarn that is a bit more flexible. It could be some alpaca content, cashmere content, yak content. The reason to that is because you have twisted stitch in the bottom and in the sides, and if the yarn is quite sturdy, tough merino, pergent, or any other wool, it could be stinching in. So to avoid that and to relax the fabric, make sure that you're choosing the yarn that is also quite relaxed and warm at the same time. My next accessory is Chantal Mittens by MorecaKnit. For them, I'm going to be using, again, Scheepjes Metropolis, the one that I'm using for my Pachira Sweater, and Cariaggi SENSE, which is a brush cashmere on silk. It contains of 71% cashmere, 19% silk, and 10% elastan. Elastan gives a thread a little elasticity, which is quite nice. I appreciate that. And I already have a hat in this combination, which I'm going to show in my next knitting podcast. This is very, very nice and soft. I'm thinking to use 2 threads of this and 1 thread of Scheepjes Metropolis. This is a fingering weight. It has 200 meters per 50 grams, and this is a lace weight. I would say it's a traditional mohair weight, maybe a little bit thinner. So what I'm thinking is to use 2 strands of this and 1 strand of this, pair it together. And Chantal Mittens are originally knit with Cardiff cashmere, which is DK weight, but I think it's more of a light DK weight in my opinion. And overall, like knitting a mittens from Cardiff cashmere, I'll just be afraid to touch everything with my mittens. So this is perfect because my brioche hat that I knit with the same yarn combination is knit in the same exact color. So I will have kind of a combo, hat and the mittens. So Chantal Mittens is freshly released pattern by MorecaKnit. It's knit on 3mm needles and it's knit with a slip stitch. Slip stitch is quite nice for the mittens because it's double warmer and the fabric is nice and squishy and thick. So the whole construction is incredible, perfectly set. MorecaKnit is one of my mainly loved designers as well. I would need a lot from her. And in this pattern, I love that she included 2 versions, which is a short mitten, fingerless glove in a way, and fully covered mitten, the traditional mitten. I also love that the base of the mitten is quite high. Usually I get cold and the air is, flowing in. So I love everything about this pattern and I'm so excited to cast on. The next pattern is from Susanne Müller, which is Nola Hans Stolpen. I hope I'm pronouncing it right because it's a German designer and the German name of the pattern is very nice 2x3. I don't know exactly how many stitches, but it's like ripped, thick ripped mittens that have a fold in the beginning of the mittens and in the end. It looks super minimalistic and cozy to me. They're a more light version when it's not too cold, when it's autumn or spring. And I have a leftover from cashmere, Cardiff cashmere, in the color 545 Sampions. I was knitting myself a whole sweater in it. I spoke about the sweater in my podcast number 2 if you want to take a look. And I have almost the whole bowl of leftover. In her pattern, she's using a Lamana Como as a recommended yarn, and it has exactly same weight and very similar spun to Cardiff Cashmere Classic. So I'm thinking to just buy 1 more bowl of the same color, 545, and knit myself these beautiful mittens. The gauge is 34 stitches per 10 centimeters and the yarn weight is sport as mentioned. I think if I take needle size of 2.75 and knit it quite tight, I think it's going to be nice, very warm gloves, and I hope to meet gauge. I can also put some elastic thread because Cardiff cashmere doesn't hold the shape so well. So finally, the last accessory that I have to make for myself is basic socks. I have no pattern yet. Usually I don't use any pattern. I just make a swatch and I measure my feet, in the widest part, and I make a sock. I like the construction of the heel, which is a strong heel, and I bought this yarn, which is a Shopwell Zubberball Crazy. I bought this yarn in Steven and Penelope yarn shop in Amsterdam. I just came back from Amsterdam 1 week ago. I couldn't find anything special there, and I'm so much in love with the shop little zubber ball, thanks to my friend Ina because she gifted me the other ball as well. And this is the color 1153, and it has this very beautiful gradient in pastel colors. So I'll just knit myself a basic sock, but to be honest, this yarn is so nice and soft that I don't want to knit socks with this. Another idea that I have in my mind is to knit mittens for the mountains. So I use very thin store-bought merino wool gloves, and I can cover my hands with the mittens from this yarn in the mountains and enjoy the colors because they're so beautiful, and this yarn is so nice and soft that yeah, probably I'm not going to knit socks with that. Thank you very much for watching and staying with me until the end if you did. I'm so grateful for all of your wonderful warm comments, your warm energy, and I'm very happy to be here, to be honest. I'm trying to balance between my knits, my excitement, and the YouTube. You know, I'm trying to not knit specifically for YouTube. I just make sure that all of it is for myself first, and then I share it with you. Until now, I feel like I'm succeeding in it. I feel quite inspired and fulfilled, and yeah, I'm in quite a good balance between all of that. So I want to thank you again for watching, and I'm hoping to see you soon in my next video.